What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Buckeye-Film-Breakdown. As always, I'm Jeremy. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. If you're tapped in on Buckeye-Film-Breakdown.com or the Substack, enjoy the full episode. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, enjoy a free preview. If you like what you hear, slide on over to Buckeye-Film-Breakdown, tap in, find the subscription tier that makes the most sense for you, and join the community. Start to partake in our chats and everything like that comes with it, and it's going to start to pick up because we've got one session of spring ball done, and obviously not a ton of info on a day where it's kind of an acclimation period. There's not a ton of contact, a lot of drills, but definitely some things stood out that the guys who were there have let out, and the media got to cover the first hour. Definitely some guys who we thought would stand out. Sounds like they already showed why they stand out. And I guess probably start the conversation with number 2, Legend Bay.
Yeah, it's great to hear, number one, that the situation worked out in his benefit. You know, the everything that went on with his recruitment, the mom situation, the Tennessee situation, and finally he got things to go the way that he wanted to. And it's just good to see him in scarlet and gray. Obviously, as Buckeye fans, you and I wanted to see that, but just as fans of the players and these guys getting their opportunities and pursuing their dreams, it's really cool to see him finally get that chance. And so it's really good to see him out there. Now, from the football side of things, we know that he's going to be an athlete. He's going to look the part. The athleticism's always going to pop. But the one thing I didn't foresee was, in the photos that were being shared, was the mask that he put on already.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely gained some weight. You know, you think back to the pictures that he had posted when he was in his dispute with Tennessee. You know, he was a smaller guy. When you can tell, like, he's definitely put on some muscle mass since being at Ohio State. And then the other thing too is just some of the things that Ryan Day was saying about him. Obviously, not wanting to give him too much credit, but I shared it. We shared it on our Instagram that Coach Day was comparing him to Curtis Samuel and Xavier Johnson, and I love. Obviously, everybody's going to compare him to Curtis Samuel, the H-back role, but I love the Xavier Johnson comparison. I love that, man. And I think people often forget about Xavier Johnson and what he brought to the program. And he was just like a glue guy and just underrated athleticism. And from top to bottom, what he provided from a leadership standpoint, being able to be a receiver in the backfield. Think of the Georgia game, some of the things that he did in that game for us out of the backfield. I think Legend can do that. And like you said before we got on here, giving him number 2 right away says something. And then just to hear Coach Day make those comparisons to Curtis Samuel, and then somebody that I know is a Coach Day guy, and Xavier Johnson, like, he's not going to throw that comparison out very lightly. Like, if he's giving you that comparison, that tells me something. And so I love seeing that. The other thing I love seeing too, Coach Locke was already in his face multiple times. Like, there was like so many pictures of that. And so I love the fact that Coach Locke has taken this responsibility. Like, hey, they give you all this hype, but you got to be ready to go. And so I think this is going to be a guy that's going to be able to play for us early. What that looks like, I don't know. Is it going to be 500 total yards of offense? Who knows? It's day 1 of practice. But nonetheless, I'm excited to see what he can do because the athleticism is through the roof, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we circle back to the running back room, because of something you said, you talked about how Coach Day chooses his words very wisely. Julian saying, we've talked ever since we've took on this venture of podcasting that Ryan Day is very cerebral with what he says. For him to be calling Julian Sayin out to run the ball on day 1 tells you all you need to know about Ryan Day's mentality going into this season.
Yeah, and I think it tells you a lot about maybe some of the reads or things that Julian didn't see at the end of the season as well. And that's to be expected with a first-year starter and a freshman quarterback. But that also is a kudos to Julian saying as well, the fact that they expected him to do so much as a freshman, as a first-year starter. And I think Julian is going to be ready to take on that pressure. Like I love the fact that Coach Day is putting that pressure on him right now. Like no doubt about it. Day one of practice, you are the leader. You are expected to be the leader. You better do this. In order for us to get to where we need to go, you have to add this to your arsenal. And just to hear some of the reports, that the Ohio State beat, state media is talking about with him stepping up as a leader and being more vocal, I think he's going to make that jump. But I love the fact that Coach Day was able to just say, you know what, we want to take that next step. This is what our quarterback has to do. And if he doesn't do it, then we might not get to where we need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Circling back to the running backs, obviously we talked about it on the last episode that with Isaiah West, Bo Jackson out, it's going to be a chance for a lot of these guys to kind of show what they've got, including Legend Bay. But another guy who you really highlighted, it sounds like really showed that burst and earned his nickname of Turbo Rogers.
Turbo is another guy that we can't forget. Put on a lot of muscle mass, and looks like from the clips that they shared, he did not lose a step. And that's one thing that you want to see. That was one of the things I loved about J.K. Dobbins is like he was very quick. The top end speed, with J.K., he was never going to, he wasn't going to be like a 4.2, 4.3 guy, but he was always going to be quick between the tackles and give you a great burst. And once he got to top end speed, you might be able to catch him, but nonetheless, he was still going to get you a huge gain. I think Turbo can be that, but I think Turbo is a little faster. Like I really do. And so I think Turbo can actually do a lot of stuff between the tackles. And I think his body is going to be developed for that, but he can also spread out and do some things as a receiver as well. And so I'm excited for him. I think he stuck around for a reason. I think he feels like he's truly being developed. And I think he sees an opportunity this year to fill a role in this offense. And I think with Arthur Smith coming in, we talked about it in an opening drive a few days ago. You look at some of the places that Arthur Smith has been, like they've always had that one type of third down back that's been able to be a 300-yard rusher, 300-yard receiver, in that 600 all-purpose yard range consistently. We need somebody like that in our offense. Turbo can be that guy alongside of Legend Bay. And so I love the fact that Turbo is being talked about already.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying on the offensive side of the ball, obviously the best player on the team is on the offense. And Jeremiah Smith continues to look like a Martian. There's no doubt about that. But the thing that jumped out to me was there was a play where he just obliterated Jalen McClain. We were talking before we came on here. Obviously, Jalen McClain's not going to be able to get his get back until August, if that. If Jeremiah Smith is ever live in practice. But you want to see your leaders setting a tone. And I'm going to guess that Jeremiah Smith saw something in Jalen McClain that day that said, hey, dude needs to wake up. But it also reminded me of the Kobe Bryant story. Play in Spain, Pau Gasol, the I'm going to run through his chest moment, because it's literally what Jeremiah did. You've been to spring practices. You've coached your own teams. What would jump out to you, or what do you think would have probably set the tone for that exchange?
Yeah, I think at some point your dudes, especially when they come in and they're young and they immediately start playing for you, you don't come in as a freshman and expect to be a leader. Even as a sophomore, it's like, okay, like you're still really good. You're still our best player, but you're still not like the leader of this team. When you hit year 3, it's now like, okay, this is my team. Like you look at me differently. I need to carry myself differently. And if he is setting the tone like this, like that carries weight. And I think when you have guys that are starting to get comfortable in how they feel and comfortable in playing with that chip on their shoulder, this is a guy who's got everything that he could ever want. I mean, he's getting chrome heart designs made for his apartment or condo wherever he lives. It costs ridiculous amount of money. Like this guy's got everything he could ever want, and he's practicing this way. And like that's what you want to see. And as a coach, there's a part of you that likes that chippiness. Now, as a defensive coach, I would want Jalen McClain the first opportunity he got in the cleanest way possible. We're going to get him back, right? But as a head coach, I'm like, okay, my guy, our dude is really working to set the tone. And so you want to see that from your leaders. You want to see that edge and that little bit of chippiness. And so I'm willing to accept that. Like I'm gonna correct it in the moment, but I'm walking away from that moment saying, all right, he's ready to go. Right. And so you want to see that from your leaders. And I think that's just more of like a tone setting thing. Like, hey, this is day one. We're not even in pads, but don't think I'm coming to play around just because it's spring ball. Like I may be the highest paid player in the country, but I'm still practicing hard every single day. And I love that for Jeremiah. I love that for JJ. I think that is great for our team to see and the young guys to see, like, if this guy is going this hard every single day and he's willing to go out there and, try to knock one of our best defensive players block off in the middle of practice for no apparent reason. Okay. Like maybe I should go a little harder in this next drill. Maybe I should go a little harder on this next play. And again, that is just who Jeremiah has been since he's gotten there. But now in this third year, likely his last year, he knows like, okay, I got to fully leave my mark as a leader on this program. And I love seeing that, man, on day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've always talked about how when you see him at spring practice, he sets the tone, which is great.
Yeah, you can't deny it, man. It's so impressive. And I've said it so many times. Your culture is good. You're going to be good as a team when your best players are your hardest workers. And when you're at Ohio State, everybody's good.
Right.
Everybody is really good. Everybody's going to go there and they're going to work hard. But what is going to separate you and what is going to make you elite? And I think guys like JJ have that. I think some certain people have that Mamba mentality. We were talking about Kobe. They just have that extra little gear that they can go to. And I think JJ exudes that every single day because he wants to be the best. And right. I love that. I love that. Marvin had it. You think about Emeka, he had it, like everybody in that receiver room. And I think it's just something that has been bred into that group, man. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that group, obviously the prized recruit, Chris Henry Jr., falls into zone 6. We've talked ad nauseum about Chris Henry Jr., but it made me a little more relaxed to hear how physically imposing he came across in that group. 6'5", 195 is what he's listed at. I've said all along, I felt like he needed to get bigger. But, if he's looking that imposing already, that's a good sign. Get him in pads, it's going to look even better. You saw him have a couple of grabs in some of the videos that were out there. I think somebody said he had a pretty long one as well from Tavian, which that's also cool that you've got him working with the 2s. You're not putting him right there in the 1s because with the depth in that room, it's not guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think people forget about his dad. His dad was a physically gifted individual, and the fact, like, physically imposing when you looked at him. And I think he is lean, but if you look at him, like, you can just tell he's got the broad shoulders. Like, he can be a big dude. Like, he could be a Marvin Harrison type build in time. Like, he can get to that level. And so to see him being 6'5", before he leaves Ohio State, he's going to be 215 pounds. Like, he's going to be rocked out. And so to see him comfortable out there looking down on all the other receivers, like he's going to be special to watch, man. And I think it's going to be good for him to not start out with that first group. He's got to go out and earn it. And, you hear some of the things that they were talking about with Kyle Parker and Devin McEwen, you know, coming in and being pros. Coach Day said, like, that is something they're not going to go away lightly. Like, they're going to show, like, hey, man, you're going to have to earn this. And you got Brandon Ennis as well. Like, you're going to have to earn being out there on a consistent basis. And so I love hearing that about Chris Henry Jr., man, because obviously he's got to play for us. He's got to be a guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing with Chris Henry Jr. that stood out to me, the one clip he's catching a ball in the end zone, and he actually caught the ball with his hands. You know, so many receivers have such a bad habit of letting the ball come to them, but the elite ones, you know, I mean, he literally was all the way out. You know, it was picture perfect, and that's really cool because you like you said with Marv, Emeka, those dudes, like, part of being a dog is that you practice the way you should play. And that's rule number one of being a receiver is go catch the ball. Don't wait for it to come to you. So to see a young guy do that jumped out to me right off the map.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think he's got all the intangibles and he can do it all. It's just about honing those fine skills, man, and being able to just go out there and consistently do it every down, every snap. And that's why he came to Ohio State. And they're going to that's Coach Hank's job to continue that development. And he'll be on the field soon. There's no doubt.
I'm curious to see how much Coach Hank rotates, because we all know Brian Hartline did not like to rotate. And I don't see how you don't rotate with this group.
Yeah.
You know, shuffling over to the O-line real quick, obviously not a lot there. And in the press conference yesterday, just a couple bullet points. Coach Day did say Ian Moore will work at tackle and guard, and that as of right now, Saraveld and Phillip Daniels are tackles. He did leave the door very wide open for the Phillip Daniels move to guard that, you know, we've kind of talked about.
Yeah, the storyline for me on the offensive line is my guy Luke Montgomery's beard. All right. I've not seen him with facial hair ever in my life, like since knowing him. It's 5 years of knowing this guy. And I look out there and I see these pictures and I see him running around, and this dude's got a beard, man. And it's just like, he was just 16 years old not that long ago. Now he's a senior at Ohio State, man. It's just like he was this baby-faced kid that they said had to gain 50, 60 pounds to be an offensive lineman at Ohio State. And now he's going to be one of the leaders of the Buckeyes. And now he looks like a grizzly bear. And so, like, I cannot get over the fact that he is just like a full-grown man. Like, I'm just mind blown. I saw that picture, him and Carson Hensman. I was like, this dude is he's a grown man. Like, I'm getting old, man.
It might be the Dr. Pepper.
It might be, man. I mean, it might be.
But yeah, Luke's going to be a leader. And obviously we're excited to monitor, you know, his progression again. You know, dude's out there living his best life. And that's what happens when you're one of the leaders on the team.
Yeah.
You know, you do the Buckeye cruise, you go to the UFC fights, like, that's a pretty big deal. So shout out Luke from, you know, Findlay, Ohio, home of Pioneer Sugar. But before we dive into the defense, we're going to take a quick break. That away, for those of you that are listening on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, like we said, this is where the free preview of this episode ends. If you're on Buckeye Film Breakdown, enjoy the rest